right now. Now we begin the conversation. It is yet another win for the Martin Amewule-led faction of the Rivers State House of Assembly. The Supreme Court has affirmed the legitimacy of the 27 lawmakers loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. The judgment, delivered by a 5-member panel led by Justice Emmanuel Agim, dismissed Governor Siminalayi Fubara's suit challenging the lawmakers' defection from the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to the All Progressives Congress (APC, ruling that the legislative authority remains intact pending the determination of their status. The Apex Court directed the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Accountant General of the Federation to withhold funds to the state until a valid budget is passed by the reinstated House. The Supreme Court also declared the local government election held on the 5th of October 2024 invalid, stating that the election violated the Electoral Act in significant ways. This verdict led to wild jubilation in the state. Now let's share that with you. Now, meanwhile, the Supreme Court judgment is in line with what Babajide and other guests on the program have stressed, that the seats of the Martin Amewule-led assembly cannot be taken away by fiat. Let's share some of the discussions with you.
The Justice Omotosho ordered him to go and present that
to the Martin Amewule, the budget.
Represent the budget. Of course, he did not represent the budget. He's been pushing to have those guys disqualified, that they are not members of the House.
Of the House, because of the defection.
The appeal court also affirmed the position of Justice Omotosho that 4 persons cannot represent a 31-man House of Assembly. And the Supreme Court has ruled on this matter in the past that, look, you need 2/3 of the members of the assembly to take big decisions like impeachment and all that. So those 3 guys, in the eyes of the law, do not represent the House. So decide.
The court will decide.
There are many cases. The court will decide. When the court decide, this whole nonsense will end. You can't have 4 persons run a house. The Supreme Court has ruled on this matter in the past. And even in this judgment, the court said the decision to present the 2024 appropriation bill to only 4 members out of 31 amounted to gross violation of Section 91 of the 1999 Constitution. It means that what he did, presenting the budget to 4 persons at that time, they are now down to 3. It's wrong.
That is
and
what
they are saying
it's illegal.
They are saying you go and represent it to a House of 31.
Counter General of the state spending funds that they deemed illegal because they felt that the budget was not properly passed. So all of these issues would be decided upon, and they were brought by different people, not just the House of Assembly alone. Different people filed suits. Now, they all went to appeal. So it's the final court will decide on all of these matters. But as I've said before, the biggest decision that we are awaiting is whether Martin Amewule and co. had ceased to be members of the House, because the governor predicated his decision to not go before them to present the budget on the fact that, in his view, they had lost their seats. This is unprecedented. There's nowhere in Nigerian history where this has happened. Nowhere. Where a governor will say, okay, so people, they've lost their seat, therefore I'm not coming before them. Nowhere. And as I've said before, I'm waiting for some of the lawyers who go on air to talk about cases that have not been decided, to mention where and when people lost their seats automatically because they defected. And I insist that it is the courts that take those seats from them. The same way the INEC has not got the power to, after giving people a certificate of return, INEC has not got the power to say, well, I withdraw it. It's a court of law.
It's the courts that will order.
So, in fact, one of the statements we made is that it is only a court that can declare the seat of these lawmakers vacant.
I've been saying that for months.
It was stated in black and white. I think there's no two way about it. There's no interest here. We are just interpreting what is clear. And it's years of experience that is being brought to bear. So people should just please drop their sentiment, look at the law. Law does not send you. That's why they blindfold their face. Exactly. Until they see a paper from the court that these seats are declared vacant. That's when they can organize another election.
Yes.
So
I don't know what I mean. Some of these things is.
How can I go and conduct another election?
I don't understand.
Beautiful conversation there. You know, we're just interpreting what is clear. We don't have a dog in this fight, but we are just interpreting. But Charles, the Supreme Court, you know, it's delivered a judgment, and the Supreme Court is generally regarded as a court of national policy.
Court of final decision.
Exactly. So, yeah. What is the implication of what the judgment of the Supreme Court today?
Well, I think first we need to. This judgment is going to go a long way to settling so many things. The recalcitrant of some leaders. When leaders just stand out to stay, they can stand the laws on their heads. I think we're beginning to see. I hope that this judgment will begin to put that to the dustbin of history.
Okay.
That you could not just stand up. The laws are there, expressly stated on what ought to be done before certain actions can be taken. They just go ahead and do stuff. So I think it's beginning to make the subnational level of our democracy to begin to behave very, very appropriately. For instance, that election that was conducted last year, I mean, you couldn't. Why would you conduct an election when the voter registration was still ongoing? So what were you going to be using? And then there was even a court that even said that INEC should not make that available to RCEC and all that. But in contravention of all those ones, they went ahead to, to conduct an election, which of course has become a nullity in law. So as I said earlier, I do hope that several other states would take a cue from that to know that the era of just doing things the way you want is gone, so that we can begin to get our electoral system right. We can begin to do things the way it's supposed to be done properly, so that the democracy that we brought in 1999 could begin to stand, endure, and then people could do things, and so that you and I, who also maybe Tony as well, who also have aspiration in time to come, would know that things will be done properly.
So in other words, yes, the election, the local government...
No, it's a nullity. It's a nullity. That's what it means.
So talk to me. The implication of this court judgment. Let's have your thought.
Like here. I know the Supreme Court, they've made their pronouncement. And the state is definitely going to abide by it. I'm just looking at the implication of... I'm just thinking of what's going on in Rivers as we speak. Because I can tell you by tomorrow what may likely happen. The other camp has been waiting for this moment, and I've gone through this, I've gone on the internet and I've seen jubilation here and there. I see, would I call it crisis tomorrow? And this is where the federal government needs to, be firm here. Something has to be done. The state needs to be secured, because the governor's side is definitely going to push back. I know Wike has been waiting, and his people. So jubilation across Abuja and in Rivers. Tomorrow I envisage a situation whereby Amawule and his team, you know, are going to march into the assembly. They are going to sit. I am foreseeing impeachment processes. A lot's going to happen.
In other words, if I get you right, what you're saying is the Supreme Court judgment has not put to bed the crisis.
You has ignited. You must exactly. It has ignited
another.
It has definitely. It has ignited another issue entirely.
Another issue.
You must obey the Supreme Court ruling. It's there. You cannot evade it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm now looking at what will happen, and I hope the security forces are ready because of what
for me. But I think.
But anyway, just hold that thought, okay? Team captain is also on Zoom. BKO, it's so good to have you join us on Journalist Hangout. BKO.
Thank you.
All right, so BKO, the Supreme Court has made the ruling. What is the implication of this judgment? And Charles also, Tony said something that this thing has not been put to bed. It might ignite into another crisis. What are your thoughts here?
Well, there is no court bigger than the Supreme Court. It is the final court in our country.
Okay.
You may not agree with the decision of the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court's decision is final.
It's final.
We've had big decisions taken by the Supreme Court in the history of our country. Remember the trial of Obafemi Awolowo for treason.
Okay.
Heavens didn't fall. So what we are saying is the Supreme Court has taken a decision, and the decision stands. I do not foresee any crisis that the security agencies won't be able to overcome. The governor of the state has to behave responsibly.
Okay.
His position is a creation of the law. His position is a creation of the law. Therefore, he has to obey the decision of the Supreme Court. There are no two ways about it. And there have been governors that these kind of big decisions didn't go their way, but they had no choice. They had to obey the decision of the Supreme Court. So I expect that for now, the decision of the Supreme Court at least lay to rest the big controversies happening, that we have had to live with. We waited for the Supreme Court to take a decision. Now the Supreme Court has taken that decision, and there's nothing anyone can do about it at this stage. I had expected what the Supreme Court, the decision of the Supreme Court, because as I used to tell my friends, a lot of whom were getting unnecessarily emotional about this matter, the law does not care about your emotions. That is the fact. Many people jumping into TV studios to argue blindly were just being emotional. So now, I've not seen any court that would decide that at this time it makes sense for 4 individuals or 3 individuals to
I can hear it, but they cannot hear it in the studio.
The House of Assembly. What was going on in the past had to end at some point because it was a show of shame. And I'm happy that at the end of the day, the Supreme Court ruled that the governor should go and present the budget to a properly constituted House of Assembly, Rivers State. A 3-man House of Assembly, one of them as Speaker and 2 other fellows, cannot be deemed properly constituted. It is an aberration. I've never seen it in all my years on this earth in Nigeria and anywhere else, I've never seen where 3 persons ran the house. Now we are being told that he has to go and present that budget. Otherwise, Rivers State will be denied its statutory funds from the federation account, funds due to it from the federation account, because you've got to find a way to make the governor respect the law and respect the judgment of court. He has no rights, he has no power to choose what judgments of the courts that he will obey. There's no person who has that power. Obasanjo lost more than 8 cases as a sitting president, but he was duty bound to obey the law. For example, Obasanjo tried to remove Atiku as his deputy. It was the Supreme Court that saved Atiku. And the Supreme Court ordered that Atiku's name should be on the ballot for the 2007 election. And that decision, despite the fact that time was against INEC, INEC obeyed that decision.
Okay.
President Obasanjo didn't say because he was president and #1 citizen, therefore he will not respect the order of the Supreme Court. And Atiku was on the ballot. Although today Atiku is saying the judiciary is the biggest problem of our country. Of course, he's not saying the truth. The politicians are the biggest problem of our country, not the judiciary. And he is one of the politicians.
Okay.
So this judgment has far-reaching implications. It lays to bear the argument whether 3 persons can continue to run the House of Assembly in Rivers State. That has been laid to rest. Whether 3 persons can pass a budget, that has been laid to rest. And the Supreme Court descended heavily on the governor of Rivers State, accused him of destroying the state just because he didn't want to be impeached. The Supreme Court talked about the assembly complex that he demolished. So Governor Suba knows what to do now. Once the decision of the final court in the land goes against you, you have no choice. You have to obey. You don't have 2 heads. People bigger than you in the past had to live with the decision of the Supreme Court. And you will not be an exception because you did not create democracy in our country. People fought for democracy. Some of us lost our friends. We risked our lives. And we do not want anything to happen to democracy in our country.
Okay.
The courts, the decisions of the courts must be obeyed. And that is what I expect to see.
All right. Now, you've heard BKO. But moving forward with these judgments, yes, it's final. What is the next line of action for the Rivers State governor? Well, what option is open for him?
The option, because there's something that we should not just throw away.
What's that?
There are 2 angles here. There is the angle of the Constitution, which of course the governor is bound to obey because you can't appeal. I mean, the appellate level ends at the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
Okay? Because after that, you go to God. I mean, you can't see God face to face to go appeal. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand is what Tony brought in earlier.
Yes.
We cannot just, I don't think we should just push it away with the way of the hand. Because there are interests in Rivers State as we speak that are holding up the ladder for even the ones they represent. For there are interests that are wicked.
The
wicked interest, I mean, Amogule and the rest of them. There's also another interest that we don't want these people to also having to do. So what we have, which of course I'm going to be building my argument upon, is that, yes, if the governor decides to, which of course he has to do, to allow them sit and then represent that budget, that's one. On the other hand, there are people who are going to be saying, if he's that governor is going to be alone right now in the wilderness, because the people he's going to be working with are not his friends. The people who have been there that he has he's drawn the wrong underneath their feet and everything. Are you saying you're going to be applauding the governor? So there are interests that are going to be telling the governor, you must not do, even though they might find a way not to allow him, but which is of course going to bring in the crisis that Tony also envisaged. But Rivers State has every cause to make that place peaceful. And then obeying this court judgment is number one to do that. And then the governor has to now stand up to tell the other interests to say, well, the River State is our state. We have one other state. All we need to do, whether your interests are, let's subsume all our interests under the interest of River State so that we can have peace and progress, and also so that everybody can be happy. But would it happen? It's a rhetorical question that I have no answer to.
Will it happen? But representing the budget, was the Supreme Court specific about which fiscal year should be represented? Is it the expended 2024 budget or the 2025 budget?
It can't be the expended budget.
But I think it's the status quo.
Yeah. I know that's, but it's going to be tough.
Status quo.
Because it's been spent, the budget has been implemented, executed. So I don't know, and I don't want to go into that judgment because, of course, the Supreme Court has spoken.
Yes.
Yeah, but I know you know the answer. It's been executed. Money has been spent. How are you going to represent that budget?
In nullity.
I don't know how it's going to be. In practical things, I don't know how it's going to be possible. You know, and that's a fact. And then moving forward, for me, Supreme Court has spoken.
Yes.
That's the end. That's the full stop. But to ensure peace in Rivers, I think we need to go now. Beyond what the court has said now. The two main gladiators must sit down. That's why I spoke earlier in that direction, because I know we know what's definitely going to happen in Rivers. Just as Charles said, people are going to be on the governor's side. I said, I'm just trying to imagine what's going on
right now,
at the government house in Rivers right now. What they are thinking, they are thinking at the moment, what they are planning to come out with anytime from now. Yeah, so that is what, and at the end of the day, there will be some kind of shakeups. What I envisage will happen that will guarantee peace in Rivers is if these two people sit down with their people and see how they can ensure that, apart from the Supreme Court judgment, how do we ensure that this does not spill?
Over time, myself and BK, we've always had this conversation: a political solution or a legal solution.
Yeah.
At this point,
and BK has always talked about
the social solution.
BK has always talked about the legal solution.
Yes,
the court is the only one that.
Yes.
The court has ruled now. Yeah, but you know,
have there not been court decisions? I mean, several ones that were not obeyed.
Exactly. All right, gentlemen, we need to go on this break. But when we return, BK, you've always talked about that it's only a court solution, the legal solution, that can solve the situation in Rivers State. But now that the court has made a pronouncement, do you think a political solution is necessary afterwards? We'll have that discussion right after this break. Don't go anywhere. Still Journalist Hangout.
10 years ago, we were created with a mission and vision to light up Africa. Now it's 15 years of shining bright in